Hello, thanks for tuning in to another photo critique. My name is Mike Lloyd. I run a multi-six-figure boudoir studio in Silicon Valley, California, and I love learning about photography. I love learning in general, but photography is kind of my jam, so here we are. I have been a professional photographer for 12 years, teaching for 10 of those, and I'm a certified judge through Professional Photographers of America. I have judged print competitions all over the country, spoke at events, and I am stoked to share this with you today. I'm going to be going through a handful of different images and giving constructive feedback. It's not about whether I think a photo is good or bad, because there's no such thing. It's all subjective. We all have our opinions on whether art resonates with us or it doesn't. That's not why we're here. This is for us to get good feedback on different shooting techniques, posing, lighting, editing techniques, storytelling, composition, the mechanics of photography, not your intention and not whether or not I like the image. That's really important. And so I always recommend that everybody submits as many photos as they can to every competition and every critique they can possibly get into, so you can learn how to become a better photographer. And again, it's not about whether people think your work is good or bad. There is no downside to entering your work in. Like, no one is going to judge you. It's not about you as a person. We're talking about the craft of photography. And at the end, I'm going to tell you how you can submit images to be in these critiques. So without further ado, let's dive in. Okay, cool. So thank you, Rich, for bringing this one to our critique, the first one, kicking it off. So Rich is a phenomenal body painter. I'm stoked for all of you to see more of his images. We've got to work together before a couple times and do some incredible stuff. So, okay, cool. Let me dive in. Firstly, I love the pose. I love the curves here. You totally nailed all of that. I love these lines. Her face here. Composition wise, I think this is super strong. I'm really, really digging this. The one thing that jumps out at me is the space over here versus over here. And if you draw a line straight down the image, she is totally centered, so that's correct. But it's weighted differently. So I would have put this line down the center because you have so much weight in that arm over here, and not weight like on the scale, but it's impact on the image. And so it seems like it's off center because there's more weight over here in the image. But again, I think the pose is fantastic. Her face right here, I love the pose, the direction. It's a little dark, and I don't think it's underexposed, but compared to how bright her arms are, it makes her face look underexposed and we lose it. I know the face isn't really the focus here, but it would balance out just a little bit more. Or even if you knocked down the arms here, darkened them just a little bit, like an adjustment brush, and drop your highlights or your whites, I think that would make some big impact also. The other thing, it's a good crop here, a good place to do that. And I like that you put one leg in front of the other. I would have gone just a little bit more and actually had them like really close to overlapping down here. It's really close. And again, just things that, since I'm looking for things to change, that's something that I would do. But I love the expression. Everything else looks fantastic. All right, so this one's brought to us by Justin. What's up, man? Thanks for submitting some photos. All right, so a couple things with this one. I like the exposure. Not sure if you were going for the flare from the light here, but it looks like lens flare from the side light. I don't think it's a bad thing. It's just if that's something that you wanted purposefully in the image, then cool. If not, then flagging that off or moving it back a little bit, putting a lens hood on, would help eliminate that. There's this line up here. It looks like the top of the headboard where it meets the wall is right at the top of her hand. And it's almost like you're cropping right here. And so for me, that feels really crowded right in here. And then same thing with the crop over on this side. Her elbow is cut off a little bit. I don't think it would be that big a deal if it wasn't here, and then also cutting through her feet and her leg down there at the bottom. If this could have been zoomed out or you could have backed up just a little bit, it'd feel a lot less crowded. I like the lines otherwise. You posed very well. It's well exposed. Good detail here in the hair also, and her face doesn't totally disappear. Yeah, that's my main thing. It's just really, really cramped because of how tight the crop is. This one took a minute for me to see. This is like one of the ones I looked at before, and it was tough to see like what was actually going on here at first, and then I realized what was up. So I like the depth of field. I like focusing on things too and letting the rest of the body fall into or fall out of focus. For me though, like the shoes here, the straps of the shoes are really bright, and that's kind of distracting, especially because it's right there in the foreground. So knocking that down would really help. Also with the hands here. So with hands, when you put hands together like this, it makes one big like 10-fingered club hand. So I'll put hands like this over somebody or sideways like this, but I never cross the fingers because that just doesn't photograph well. Like literally any other way you stack them will look better than this. I also don't like when people do this, especially when they pose in front of a Ferrari or something. I think that looks super weird. Okay, so that was easier to explain than trying to sketch it with the little pen tool here. So yeah, I'd fix the posing of the hands. It looks like maybe her hands are tied around the wrists with the fabric. I can't quite tell what's going on here. Again, I think it's the crop is just really tight, and it's tough to see what's happening. So I think if you wanted to show like wrists being bound, I'd have them crossed. So instead of hands tied like this, tie them like this. Because diagonal lines are more, okay, tied with the necktie. Yeah, totally. So again, like this is weird because it makes this like club hand thing, but this diagonal lines are softer, more feminine, more flattering pose there. And then you could shoot that from the side if she's like tied to the ankles also. You could get all of that there. Yeah, it's tough to see what's going on. Digging her nail polish though. All right, let's keep rolling. There we go. Tied with a necktie too. I like how you staggered the legs. I'd stagger them the other way. So she'd be more zigzagged like this, as opposed to that zigzag coming up this way with that leg bent there. Small tweak though. And then this is one of the things that I look for specifically when I choose a bed to shoot on. I want the hardest like Papa Bear mattress that there possibly is. Like a sheet of plywood with a sheet over it would be ideal, because when you have a softer mattress, somebody sinks into it, you're like losing a bunch of her, and things get cut off or smushed and spread out too. It's just not as flattering, right? Because you've done a great job of creating these shapes in here, and we've lost it because she sinks into the mattress. And then this sheet is also really, really bright in the foreground. And especially when you have these contrasty images, this much white space can be really overpowering in the image. So the other thing I look for when I shoot on different sheets is texture. I'd rather get a textured white sheet or comforter, duvet, something that's not just a big white mass like that. But otherwise, like I'm digging the separation in here. Again, you did a great job of creating these diagonals. It's just too much white, and the bed is a bit soft there. Okay. So I'm digging the reflection. I like this. I think it's a weird, I'm sure that's like the natural depth of the water, right? Is where this was, where her knees are here and the way her arms go. But we're essentially cropped middle of shoulder and like right at the top of the thigh and the feet here. And it's just not an ideal place to crop. It makes her look kind of stumpy. Also, the horizon line here is not straight, right? The water should be coming this way, and crooked horizons always bug me.
but I'm digging the reflection otherwise. Yeah, and we're losing all the separation in here. And I know it's tough when you have a wet shirt like this because it's going to hang down because gravity. But I'm digging. I love the light on the hair, the face, the expression. The hand looks great here. It's just cut off right at the wrist. And so it's, if it was like mid forearm or even wrist, just so you can see more of the hand, that would be ideal. And I think just enough detail in the background so she's not floating in outer space, because you can see the reflection of the stuff down here also, I think is great. It's out of focus, it's dark, but you can see there's background. I think that's done really well. And I like the light on her. I know you probably couldn't drain the water or like put something in there to lift her up a little bit would be ideal, just so she's not cropped. Because the water line, just like any lines in an image, whether it's the headboard or a fence or a power line or a telephone pole or any of the hard lines in an image, act as crop lines. And so you want to make sure those fall through the body in the most flattering positions.
Well, that was a good one. I sure hope you learned something, and I would love to get your work featured in these critiques also. So send me an email, mike@boudoirguild.com. I'll put the link down below. Send me as many photos as you want, and when I do these critiques, I will pick a handful of images from everything that I have, and I will go through and give constructive feedback, just like I did here. And if you want to know more about lighting, posing, editing, all of these things, I have some great videos here on the channel, also at boudoirguild.com. I really deep dive into the intense training videos over there. You are amazing. We'll see you inside.